Hello everyone and welcome back to Spirit Man Studios. My name is Nick and today we are going through the Blu-ray haul, and I think the last time I've done a full-on huge haul thing was like a few months ago, 6 months ago. I have no idea when it was, but we're going to start off with going through some TV shows, then some DVDs, as well as and then we're going to go through the Blu-rays. So let's first start off with probably one of the more controversial ones so far, at least, and that is Game of Thrones. I bought season 1, and I watched all the way through, and I decided to just pick up the rest. So yeah, I got season 1. So season 1, Game of Thrones. Season 2 of Game of Thrones. Season 3 of Game of Thrones. Season 4. Season 5, Season 6, and Season 7. No, I have not seen the apparent shitstorm of a season called Season 8. In fact, I'm only halfway through Season 2, and I've been meaning to get around to finishing the series, but it's like every episode's like a movie long, so I gotta pace myself with these. It's not meant for like a binge-watching sort of series, so... and speaking of binge-watchable series, Stranger Things Season 2, in its really cool-looking clamshell design. I've been a big fan of this type of release for Netflix's shows. Like, not all the time is there a way you can get Netflix shows on Blu-ray or even DVD. A lot of times it's DVD, but most of the time you can't even get them on Blu-ray. And I'm so glad that they decided to go Blu-ray and 4K with their, Stranger Things series. So here's one on DVD that I wish was on Blu-ray, and that is Dear Zachary, A Letter from His Father to His Son. Very depressing documentary. I am meaning on actually doing a video on this particular documentary at some point. It won't be next week. It won't be the following week. It might be somewhere towards the latter half of the series, latter half of the season. Anomalisa, really good film. I managed to check it out. I found it really good. I love the way that he only uses 3 voice actors and one of them playing a majority of the cast in the film, which is hilarious. And it makes for a very interesting story about a guy who's just trying to find some uniqueness in life beyond the mundanity of life. Atlantis, The Lost Empire, and Miles Return. I really like The Lost Empire. It's very underrated. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect movie by any means. I wouldn't be so blustered if Disney decided to remake that film into live action, because I think that one could genuinely have some pretty interesting touch-ups when it comes to visual effects and whatnot. So, who knows? I would love them to go back to using miniatures when it comes to like some of the submarine type stuff. I don't want it to be full. I wouldn't want to be fully CG, but some of the stuff should use. I would love them to use models. So, Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've talked about this movie already. Find the review. Batman Hush. Talked about it in a review. It was the last set of reviews I released. Some of these I actually switched up to 4K, and some of them I've switched up to Steelbook. So this is the first one of those, 4K and Steelbook, of Christine. Love this film. I've talked about this film in Stephen King Month 1. Stay tuned for Stephen King Month 2. You know, all that fun stuff. Cinderella, the anniversary edition. I think this is the 80th anniversary? I'm not entirely sure. 70th, 80th, I'm not sure. But it was part of the Walt Disney Signature Collection, which I've been heavily into. And I'm really glad that they're bringing these films back out of the vault instead of just fully remaking them and never selling the originals. That would be very stupid. Cool Runnings, Disney Movie Club exclusive. I really do enjoy this film. It's not a great film. It's not even that good, to be fairly honest. But I do like this movie because of John Candy as well as the actors who played the Jamaican bobsled team. They all bounced off each other like a very fun ensemble cast. I'll talk about more about that movie in the future. But in the meantime, let's talk about Creepshow. I really enjoy Creepshow. The first Creepshow is probably the best out of all of the Creepshow movies. I'm so excited that we are getting a TV show, like a pulp-style TV show, on Shudder for that that intellectual property, as being done by Greg Nicotero and that fun stuff. Next up, a Goofy movie. It's the 15th anniversary edition. I want to say it's a 15th anniversary. I could be wrong. This movie is a classic to many 90s kids for various reasons. I'll talk about it more later. Just a little wink and nudge at some big project later. Next up, I have a steelbook copy of The Goonies. I really do love The Goonies. Not a perfect movie, but it's a fun family adventure by Richard Donner and executive producer Steven Spielberg. It definitely changed the way people viewed Oregon. There wasn't a lot of movies that were filmed in Oregon that were hugely notable, but I think after The Goonies came out, it was on everyone's radar. And there are a lot of films, actually, that have been filmed in Oregon. And at some point, maybe we'll talk about it more. The Hate You Give. I have not seen this film yet. It was recommended to me. I'll take a look at it at some point. So, that's my thoughts on it. Next up, Holes. The 15th anniversary edition of Holes. I love Holes. It's a decent adaptation of the book, and I enjoy it as kind of like that nostalgic, hey, this is what I watched as a child. Again, not a perfect movie, but I love it, And it was before Shia LaBeouf was weird. Anyways, next up in the next pile, The Favorite, Yorgo Lanthimos' latest film. I watched this in the theaters, and usually films like this don't come often to our theater out here in rural Oregon. But when we actually got it, I really enjoyed it. And when I went to go see it, I was the only one in the audience. I mean, it was sad that I was the only one in the audience, but I really did enjoy The Favorite. I love the set design, I love the camera work, I love the actresses in the film. It's a very, very interesting film about power and manipulation, and it's also just more of a straight-up comedy. It's not... I don't know why some people say it's a comedy, but I did kind of laugh at some points. But I found it more as kind of a study on, power dynamics and relationships, so who knows. You got a horror 2-pack, The Devil's Rejects, and The House of a Thousand Corpses. And if you ask me if I'm excited for 3 from Hell, yes, I'm very excited. I love these 2 films. They're not perfect, but they are the type of grungy films I would watch if I was in a bad mood. The How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. I had these 2 before, but I decided to get the 3-pack because I wanted the full trilogy in 1 pack instead of buying individual things. It just saves up more space in the shelves. So, there's that. I recently upgraded my 2 copies of It to Steelbook, so you have the 90s It on Steelbook. I've already talked about this film. Go find my review. And I've already talked about this version of It. And hell yes, I'm excited for It Chapter 2, and I'm excited to pick up the 4K Steelbook copy of that. James and the Giant Peach. Wanted it just for the Disney Movie Awards points, but it's also a pretty decent film. It's not perfect, it's not even good at times, but I love stop motion. I'm a big fan of animation and stop motion, so there's that. The next, I want to say 18 titles are all upgraded to 4K. And these are the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, so we'll just go quickly through them. So we got Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, The Avengers, Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Avengers Age of Ultron, Captain America Civil War, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Black Panther, Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp. By the way, I don't like lenticular covers, and I hate that cover, by the way. If anyone can find a better cover than that, I'll pay for it. Captain Marvel, and obviously the big one, Avengers Endgame. So yeah, with that, I've almost upgraded every single Marvel Cinematic Universe film to 4K. The only ones left that they haven't announced yet is the first Ant-Man, the first Doctor Strange, and the first Guardians of the Galaxy on 4K. Obviously, when Far From Home comes out, I'll be picking up that as well to close out the Infinity Saga. Can't wait for Phase 4. Heard a lot about it. Just can't wait. And then the last stack that we have here, we'll start off with Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I haven't checked this one out. I'm a huge fan of James Stewart, so I'll be in for a good time. The Mummy trilogy. So you got The Mummy Returns, and Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Honestly, I think the first one's kind of good, and then the rest of them are not so great. The Never Ending Man, or Hayao Miyazaki. Really good documentary if you want to learn about Hayao Miyazaki and animation from the Studio Ghibli giant that he is. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest special collector's edition. This, if you get a chance to get one of these, grab it. This is a really cool collector's edition. So not only do you get a little book about the making of the film, you get the movie on Blu-ray, you get this little confidential file thing, patient file, and then you get like a thing of cards that's like themed after the movie. I really like this edition. Another film made in Oregon, by the way. Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Already reviewed it. I thought it was okay. Thought it was fun. Bought it because I'm a big fan of Pokemon and I'm a nerd. Can't blame me for that. Pooh's Grand Adventure. The Adventures of the Search for Christopher Robin. I remember watching this film on VHS as a kid, and now I have it on Blu-ray. The Prince of Egypt. I don't like this cover. This artwork, I hate so much. It's so bland. It's blasé. I've never liked this sort of solid tone, and then you got the characters' faces on the front. Why not just have the original theatrical poster, or hell, do some minimalist art? You know, I think that would be some really cool stuff. But nah, you gotta have bland looking things, and I mean, it's a good movie regardless. But that cover art is terrible. If anyone can hook me up with some better cover art, I'll pay you. Princess Bride on Criterion Collection. I'm going to be meeting Carrie Elways at Rose City Comic Con, and I can't wait to talk to him about this film. Hopefully he'll sign it. But yeah, I really love this film. It's a very, very enjoyable film. And yes, this is a book. This is a book. It's a digibook. I'm not necessarily a fan of digibooks, but you know, if that's the only way I can get a Criterion edition of the film, then so be it. Repo the Genetic Opera. Guilty pleasure. Not a good film. Not a good film. Not even decent. But the music, I found pretty good, especially from Anthony Michael Head. And I watched this at a young age that I was morbidly fascinated with it. I watch it every now and then, but it's not a perfect movie, I will admit. Shadow on 4K. A friend of mine recommended me this film, and I'll get around to reviewing it at some point. But yeah, I haven't watched it yet. Next up, Shazam. I love Shazam. Shazam is a good, entertaining popcorn movie. The only thing that I really had a problem with was where they distributed it, or when they distributed it. I think it would have been a really good Christmas film. But, again, it was already probably going to go up against Star Wars, so I guess that's why they transitioned it. Or they could have switched spots with Aquaman, you know. A Silent Voice. I've heard so much about this movie, I'll review it at a later date. A Star is Born Encore Edition. Again, I've never seen the original versions of this story. I only know of this version, and I traded in the regular edition of the film for the encore because it has both the theatrical and director's cut. I hugely enjoyed the film. I like Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. That's the strongest part of the whole movie, is that whole, thing. And Bradley Cooper as a director, it has some promising stuff, and hopefully, maybe with his next film, he can really blow us away. He did an admirable job with A Star is Born, so hopefully his next film can really bust through and really give us a powerhouse film. Hopefully. The Sword and the Stone, I'll talk about it later, but it's a decent enough animated film. Synecdoche, New York, YMS's favorite film of one particular year. I watched it. Maybe I have to watch it over and over and over as time goes on, but I kind of understand what Charlie Kaufman was going for. Tomorrowland. I got this from Disney Movie Club for free. Thank you. Thanks, Disney. It's okay. I like it. If you watched the recent review roundup video, then you might have seen these. I got the Toy Story trilogy on 4K. Love every single one of these films, even Toy Story 4, which I will probably be getting on 4K just to have everything match up. Treasure Planet, another film, much like Atlantis: The Lost Empire. It has various things that I like. There's one thing that I don't like, and that's the robot. He's pretty annoying. But other than that, I like the story with Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver, the fact that his father went away. I like the animation. I like some of the effects that they have. And I think it would benefit from a live-action adaptation. I think that would actually benefit visual effects-wise, because we can actually pull something off like that nowadays. UHF. I just watched it yesterday. And I gotta say, it was of its time. But at the same time, I don't know what really to think of this. I'll get back to you on this movie. We'll talk about it later. The Universal Monsters Collection. This is not the full collection, by the way. This only has 6 movies. It has Dracula, The Invisible Man, Frankenstein, Wolfman, The Mummy, and The Bride of Frankenstein. And if you know anything, you're missing one key creature, and that's the creature from the Black Lagoon. And I am a little bit disappointed in this collection. But at least you get 6 of the Universal Monsters movies. Us. Very divisive film, but I enjoy it. I did a review of it. Go check it out. That's all I really have to say. Check my review out. Widows from Steve McQueen. I'm actually a pretty good fan of Steve McQueen. And his work with 12 Years a Slave and Hunger, I really enjoy some of his earlier work as well. I haven't yet checked out Widows. It never came to our theater here, so I am going to eventually check it out. And last but not least, Zodiac, the 2-disc director's cut. This was done by David Fincher. He has a thing for serial killers, I might add. His recent work with Mindhunter will definitely cue you in on that. It's like he's really obsessed with how this sort of thing works. Like Mindhunter especially really gets down into the nitty-gritty of, the first season especially gets into how the FBI started talking about serial killers, and then the second season is like, now that they're established, how do we go about talking with these people? I have not yet seen Mindhunter Season 2, but I will be talking about it at some point. I love Mindhunter. Mindhunter is peak television. I'll be talking about some other things related to television pretty soon, but that is all the Blu-ray updates that I have for my collection. So we'll be doing this again maybe in 6 months. Can't wait to talk about it. Hope to see you there. And remember, make movies with your brain. Okay, that's the worst kind of thing to say. Whatever. Goodbye. See ya.